What's going on, YouTube? This is SG1 Sports, and you're watching our college football channel. We continue with our schedule preview projected record series. Rutgers is up next. Before we get to 2024, let's look back at the schedule from 2023. Here was the schedule from last season for Rutgers. Of course, having to play in the Big Ten East is always going to make it difficult. They had to play Michigan, had to play Ohio State, had to play Penn State, also had to play Iowa out of the West. So you're talking about the best team out of the West. Played Virginia Tech in the non-conference. They were able to win that game. Also played Northwestern, who turned out to be pretty good. So this was a really difficult schedule last season. It gets a lot easier. Also had to play Wisconsin. So you could even say maybe they played the three best teams out of the West, plus all those teams in the East. This team, with the schedule they had, just getting to a bowl game, very, very impressive. But let's get to this 2024 schedule, which again is much easier. We'll start with the non-conference. Howard, Akron. They do have to play at Virginia Tech, so it's Virginia Tech again, this time on the road. So you could say, the non-conference probably is tougher. It's really about the same, but again, just having to play that game on the road. But it's the conference schedule that's a lot easier. They get Washington at home, Wisconsin at home, UCLA at home, Minnesota, and Illinois. All of those games are at home. Now, so they're going to be tough. Washington, Wisconsin, UCLA, even Minnesota, those could all be tough games, but they get them at home, so they're going to have a chance in all of those games. And then you look at the road schedule, again, Virginia Tech, then it's at Nebraska, at USC, at Maryland, at Michigan State. So what do you notice here just right away before we go game by game? What do you notice? They don't play Ohio State, they don't play Michigan, they don't play Penn State, and they don't play Oregon. Also, don't play Iowa. I mean, this is a really favorable schedule, but it's also, there's a lot of games here that they could lose as well. But we'll start, with Howard August 31st, home game, and Akron on the 7th. So it starts off with two pretty easy games. And then they get a very early bye week before going on the road to play Virginia Tech. So they're going to have extra time to prepare for Virginia Tech, but that will obviously be a very tough game. Virginia Tech has a lot coming back. It's a tough place to play. So that's going to be a really tough one for Rutgers. They'll play Washington at home the next week on the 28th. Then October the 5th on the road at Nebraska, Wisconsin on the 12th. And then it's UCLA on October 19th at home. On the road at USC on October 26th. And then they'll play Minnesota after a bye week. So we've noticed this with a lot of teams in the Big Ten. After going out west, they then get a bye week the next week. And that's what they'll get before playing Minnesota at home. On the road at Maryland on the 16th. Then it's Illinois on the 23rd. And they close things out with Michigan State on the road November 30th. So again, it's kind of you say it's an easy schedule, but for a team like Rutgers, yes, it's easy because they don't have a lot of games. Like, they don't have games on the schedule, maybe any games where you'd say they've got no chance. I mean, is there a game here where you're going to say Rutgers has no chance? I don't think so. I think they've got a chance in pretty much every game that they play. But are there a lot of easy wins? No. You got Howard and Akron. That's about it. So it's probably going to come down to a lot of close games for them, and games that could go either way. But again, it is a much, much easier schedule than what they faced in 2023. Here were some of those projections from last season. Rutgers going 6-6, of course, in the regular season. Our projection had them at 4-8. My prediction, 4-8. Athlon, a little bit higher, 5-7. The over-under for this team was between 3.5, 4.5. That's where you could find that. So this was not a team that was expected to do very, very much last year. And again, the schedule did turn out to be very, very tough. And I think that's a big reason why those projections were as low as they were. If you gave them this year's schedule last year, you probably would have had projections closer to 6-6. So it's an easier schedule. We'll see what the projection is. Again, this is that schedule. This is the scale that we use. If it's under 20 or over 80, those are pretty much guaranteed wins or losses. 20-29, 71-80 games where I think the spread will be double digits, maybe 2 touchdowns, maybe a little more. 30-39, 61-70 games where I think it'll be closer to a touchdown. And then your 50-50 games that could go either way, and you've got a lot of those for Rutgers. So we'll start with the easy win. You've got Howard. Howard should absolutely be an easy win. Would be a big surprise if they were to lose that game. FCS opponent, again, they should roll in that one. And then we got Akron, a game where I think, maybe that should be in the green, but we're going to put it in the blue. Rutgers is not exactly a powerhouse. I know they've gotten better, but this is an FBS team, so we'll say they'll be favored by 15, 16 points in that one. And those are your two easy wins. Then after that, You've got USC on the road. That one's going to be a tough one. I think they will be about a touchdown underdog there. I don't think USC coming in this season is maybe a whole lot better than Rutgers, but the home field advantage is what puts that one in the yellow. If that was at home for Rutgers, that would be a 50-50 game. And then, there are not any games on the schedule where they're going to be a huge underdog. You talk about Virginia Tech, they're in the same tier. Washington, maybe the same tier, plus it's at home. Nebraska, same tier as Rutgers. Wisconsin, maybe a tier above Rutgers, but that game's at home, and that makes the difference. UCLA, same tier. Minnesota, the same tier. Maryland, pretty much the same tier. Illinois, Michigan State. I mean, you've got a bunch of games against teams that should be pretty even matchups for Rutgers. And, which ones will they win? Which ones will they lose? That's the question. It could really go either way for this Rutgers team. If you get those 2 wins, though, and then you have the rest of the schedule, you have the other 10 games, you split those, you could go 5-5 in those games, then of course that's going to get you a projection of 7-5. That is the projection for Rutgers. That's what they're expected to do. Again, if they lose a lot of close games, and I'll tell you what, if we just run through the schedule and I just go through the games where I think they will be underdogs, and again, maybe just a field goal, but I think they will be underdogs against Virginia Tech, Washington, Nebraska, Wisconsin, maybe not UCLA, maybe not Minnesota, probably Maryland on the road. Michigan State's tough, and then again you got USC. So, if they just win the games that they're favored in and lose the games that they're underdogs in, they're probably going to be 6-6. But again, it could go 7-5, could even go 8-4, could go 5-7. But our projection, again, using the formula that I use, does come out to 7-5. That's what they're projected to do this next season. You guys agree? Do you disagree? Give me your thoughts on Rutgers down in the comments below.